Okay, next we are talking to Ren Johns of PDX Waitlist. We talked about her when we got into this section. Ren's business is about helping you find childcare, whatever that means, whether we're talking about preschool, daycare, nanny situation. She is the woman of the hour when it comes to childcare in a pandemic. She's got her finger on the pulse, and yesterday she just shared so much valuable information with our families. We got a lot of questions coming in for her being like, wait, tell us more. So we're really glad to have her with us again today. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her to join us.
Hello, you guys.
Hi, Ren.
How are y'all doing today?
Good. Thank you for coming back and joining us a second time. Ren is our only panelist we've had on both sides.
Thanks so much. I'm just psyched to be back. And I love Danielle, the folks who are listening from her right in my neighborhood. And it was just such an amazing home for me with my second. So whether it's your first kid or your 45th, and if it's your 45th, God bless you. Fine. I do think make your way over there. It's a really great place to be.
Yeah.
So excited to be here with you guys today. And I did, like last time, I had so much to share because there's so much going on in the childcare world that I took questions down to the wire. So if you do have questions and you're with us, pop them into the Q&A now, and I would love to take them as we go. So my name's Ren. I have two little girls in Northeast Portland, and I got into finding childcare work because when I was first looking for my first child, who's now 5, I did everything wrong. Like, I started super late. I had no idea there were all these wait lists. It was a disaster. And I think I actually have a background in early childhood education. I studied that in college. I worked with Head Starts for a while. So I think my experience really showed me, wow, man, if I can't even figure this out, this is got to be rough for everybody else, right? So I got into starting PDX Waitlist, which is a website that you can use to apply to over 30 different child cares in the Portland area, and then offering classes and consulting to families to help them make sense of just the mess that already it was finding childcare, right? Before the pandemic, every county in Oregon was a childcare desert, meaning that there was one spot for every 3 kids under 2 who needed care, right? So it was already not a bad scene, and now we're in a trickier place. So I want to catch you up on that, and then just tell you what I would say are kind of the things to know for the next month or so, because we keep being in a month-by-month basis, and just some thoughts about how I can help you troubleshoot if you're in that space, or if you're expecting and trying to be like, how do I even make sense of this? I'm here for you too, okay? So, like I said, pop those questions in there as we go, because I would love to hear them if you have them. Okay, so if you're just tuning in, maybe you were pregnant or you haven't had care before, but now you think you're going to need it, here's where things stand. Back at the end of March, the governor had the Stay Home Save Lives order, which part of that said that childcare is needed to close down. So the formal childcare system has been closed for daycares and preschools in the state of Oregon, except for folks that were allowed to reopen providing care for essential personnel. So that really changed who could access childcare, the numbers, the ratio, the protocols. There's temperature checks. You can't have food served on site. You have to bring lunches. A whole bunch of things shifted with that. And as of last Thursday, so a couple days ago, the governor re-upped that order for childcare specifically for an indefinite amount of time. So we don't have a lot of guidance right now from the governor's office about what that means in terms of when will daycare and preschool go back to life as we knew it before, or even some sort of intermediate stage. We do know that childcare has been identified as one of the first 6 industries that will open. And so we do know that they are a priority because, if you did used to have childcare and now you're trying to watch your kids from home and work, it's kind of a nightmare. So everybody's heard you on that. There are going to be coming back, but the exact timeline is still unknown. The other thing about that that's a little bit tricky is that the timing is the ratios that it's going to be going back are a little bit unclear. So one thing that we're not sure about is, are we going to be at the current ratios that emergency child cares are at, which is pretty much the same for kids 0 to 3, but is only 1 to 10 for kids who are, right, so they can only have 10 kids in a room for kids who are in preschool, and that makes it significantly harder for them to run their business, honestly. Or are we going to go back to where we were before? So all of that is unknown. And I see a question from Sarah here in the Q&A, which says, schools might not start in September. Do we foresee childcare being back in September? Girl, I wish I knew. They're not. So I'm certainly hearing rumors that say over the summer, but nothing more substantial than that, right? So you have the same crystal ball I do. Again, the governor has said that they will be prioritizing that early on. And I have heard, and if you read in the Oregonian recently from the OHA, they realize that keeping people in this level of social distancing forever is just going to be hard to be sustained. And so I think the goal is, how can we bring back some pieces of life incrementally while of course keeping each other safe? And even to reopen childcare, even if that is the first industry, there's all these different requirements that have to be met about declining cases, PPE available, etc. So Sarah, I feel like that's a non-answer. I feel like the odds are decent, but that's literally based on rumor. So you know what I know. Okay. So that's not clear yet. I think the other thing that's in that tricky spot of the not clear, like summer, September, never, probably not never, but is this idea that for childcares, they can't go multiple months without business. So currently the forecast is that about 50% of childcares across the country are supposed to close because, just like restaurants, just like small retail, without revenue, they didn't have big stockpiles of money that they were just sitting around saving for a rainy day, right? These are the definition of mom and pop businesses. So they can't maintain without some sort of federal intervention. So that those kinds of things are in the works. And I would say, if you take nothing else from me today, it's please go, familyforwardaction.com has a really fantastic action alert where you can send letters to your congressional representatives. There is conversation about a $50 billion carve out just for childcare to help keep them afloat, but that hasn't been passed yet. So if you take nothing else away from me, please go to familyforwardaction.com and sign it. Actually, our senators here in Oregon, Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden, have been leading the charge for that. So we want to say thank you to them and to tell everybody else, please let that happen. Okay. It's really got to come from the federal level. There's just not enough money at the state level. On average, the estimate is that we need about $50 million a month to keep our childcare system as a whole afloat. And in the most recent age package, we only got $38 million for 3 months, right? So we don't have enough funds right now. And that's why families are being asked to pay tuition. So if you do have childcare and you're being asked to pay tuition, I know that is not an ideal situation. And I think it's not a great thing that parents are basically the bailout plan, but that's kind of where we stand right now. So if that is something that you can swing if you're working, I think that will be helpful to keep them moving forward. How long are you going to have to do that? I think every family has to have that kind of calculus for themselves. All right. So that's, I would say, the kind of biggest news. Formal childcare system shut down. No specific timeline, no specific information on ratios. And if that's driving you bonkers, you better believe the childcares are like pulling their hair out because they are so afraid of going out of business, and they want to be serving you just as much as you want them to be back, right? So we're all in this space. The governor has said that they're going to be releasing more plans and specifics around the reopening plans in the next few weeks. So stay tuned to Oregon Live because they seem to be scooping things faster than everybody else. But in the meantime, we're all kind of living in this uncertainty, which brings me to this idea of what should you do right now? And I would say, if you know on a deadline, I gotta have something by June. Maybe you're an essential personnel. Well, if you're essential personnel, there's tons of spots. So if you can't find those, let me know. I will help you find that. But maybe things have shifted with your family and this is just not doable for you anymore, and you have to be able to work or whatever. If that is you, I would say a nanny or a nanny share is your best bet right now. And one of the things that I do have in the raffle packet is a free consult just to figure out how to do that. There are fantastic nanny agencies in the area. So if you want to pay the $1,500 or $2,000 for a nanny placement, yeah, absolutely, they're wonderful folks. But if you're like, I want to try a step before that, there's actually some pretty good tools, even honestly using Facebook to help find your nanny. So I can walk you all through what do you need to know about taxes? What should you ask on an interview? All that kinds of things, whether or not you win the raffle basket or not. Okay, but that would be my suggestion, is in the short term, nanny share, family friend, something to get you through the summer. I think within the next month or two, we should have a little bit more clarity about kind of what's going to happen, at least for the summer to fall. I would say if you need care for later on, child care providers are working on their summer and fall enrollment because honestly, the information they have is that, at any point things could open up again. So they are starting to talk to families about openings. And believe it or not, places that usually have multi-year waitlists are going to have openings, right? The sad reality of this economic crisis is that families who used to need care don't need it anymore. So there's been about 10 to 20% disenrollment at your average child care provider across the state. And wait lists, while they haven't been long, are at this moment a little bit of the like, who knows who on here even still needs care, right? So if you do need something, I think my number one strategy for you would be diversify your options, right? We aren't sure who's going to be open on the other side. It's not totally clear who's going to be able to get bailed out or not. So I would be thinking about multiple different types of places. I would be thinking about larger centers. I'd be thinking about smaller in-homes. I would be thinking about folks who are currently open as emergency childcare because they actually have kind of a quicker short line to get funding. And I would think about places that have little to no wait list whatsoever. So give yourself a broad range of options. And if you want to figure out how to do that or where to do that, that I can tell you, right? So I run a free Facebook group, and I would say that's my number one place to come find me. It's called Finding Childcare in PDX, and I go live weekly with tips and tricks. There's like over 500 folks in that sharing ideas and looking for nanny share leads, so that's a great place to start. And then they put up my card, but you can also connect with me. I help families find care, so whether that's right now, whenever we get to opening, I can actually find you the places that have openings because I'm in conversation with over 50 folks in the area, right? So let me know, and I would love to be of service to you in that way. Okay, I know I see a question from Elizabeth about multi-year waitlist. I will just say, and I'm sure Sarah and Olivia are going to need to cut me off at any minute here, but Elizabeth, I would just say in typical times, you know, what I always emphasize for folks is, yes, there are places that have 2 to 3 year waiting lists, but there's also a lot of places that have no waiting lists, right? So we always need to have folks, that's again where I go back to like your plan A and your plan B. Even if your dream school has a 3-year wait list, cool, get on there, you'll get a spot at preschool, and then let's find you a little smaller in-home place that is cozy and warm and loving and safe where you can be totally solid until your next dream spot opens, right? So Elizabeth, that's the kind of stuff I would be thinking about with you, and know that there's always something, but we are in this position where we're in this crazy unknown and we don't know who's going to shut down and stay open. So it is a little bit trickier to navigate. So Elizabeth, come find me. Let's talk about it. I can walk you through what I know about who's in your neighborhood. And I just think asking on tours before you do any wait list, I would schedule a virtual tour or a phone conversation and just be real honest and say, hey, I know it's a tough time for childcare. Can you help me walk through like what your plan is for staying afloat? I don't want to be impertinent, but we all know this is really crazy. So what are you asking of families? What are you thinking about? Oh, good, Elizabeth. Well, I'm so glad. Let's just keep connecting that way. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And I'm really excited to be a part of this community. We've got fabulous folks coming up. Shira's great. Margot's great. Everybody who is on this panel is fantastic, not to mention Olivia and Sarah. So
thanks for joining us today, Ren. We know you've got a lot on your plate right now with everything that's going on, but we so appreciate all the knowledge you have to share.
Awesome. Well, glad to do it.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Here's Ren's info one more time.
Oh, Margot jumped into the chat here. She's all ready to go for her bit next, but she said, you are so amazing, Ren. Thank you for all your work. It's so vital, especially right now. And we could not agree more.
Sure.
Definitely, childcare is a piece of supporting families, and that is not a joke.
Mm-hmm.